Hi everyone, I'm Jerry Ford and welcome to my studio. It's Thursday night, so what are we going to do tonight? We're going to talk about border quilting around a corner. This design can be done on virtually any machine. Just going to be using a 5x7 hoop. This consists of two designs, one for the corner, which is 5 inches by 5 inches because I have a 5-inch wide border. The width here are 5.5 inches, so this is my corners right here. And this is the design for the border pieces. So you get long arm quilting results on your 5x7 embroidery machine. I digitized this design. Next week I'm going to talk about how I digitized this 5-inch design, including a corner motif using Embroidery Stitch Artist, so that's next week's lesson. But in the meantime, if you don't have access to digitizing software or don't want to do your own, this design is free. Just send me an email at waltzquilt@yahoo.com and I'll be happy to send you these two designs. So let's get started. So first thing you want to do is print out your designs. Here they are. I've put a little arrow to show where the top is and which piece it is, because they look awfully close, and see, they do match up really well. It goes like this and like that, and they do match up fairly well. We need to make some marks on here so we can mark our pieces. This is assuming that we do not have a camera on our machine, and not all machines do have a built-in camera, so that we can ensure the placement. I'm going to do it both ways. So this came with most machines, and it's actually an eyelet cutter. So I'm going to get a little mat and I'm going to cut out these little parts right here to show the ends of the design and the center. I'm going to mark the entire border. I made these so that they would go about 5.5 inches wide and 5 inches high. So is that going to work? Yes, it is. So I want the end of this to be about 1/4 inch away from this inner border and about 1/2 inch away from the edge, because the binding is going to cover to about here. Okay, so I'm going to mark this. So I can see those little marks, and I'm going to need the ruler and something to mark a line. We're going to mark the entire area. So this is about 2 3/4 inches out. My design, the center of the design is 5 inches high, so that's 2.5 and add 1/4 inch here. So we're going to mark a line all the way around the quilt at 2 3/4 inches. Okay. And I'm going to do that all the way around. Might want to write it down because sometimes the chalk wears off and you don't remember where you put the line. So I'm going to go ahead and mark all the way around. So I'm always going to start with the corners, do all 4 corners at one time. So I'm going to start with the 5x7 regular hoop and the grid. The grid's very important. Why? Because this is a 5x7 hoop, and this is 5 inches by 5 inches, so I have very little wiggle room. So I need to make sure that I hoop this with a hoop rather than the magnetic hoop. The magnetic hoop is a little harder to center because you don't have a grid that goes with it. I like to use this for the straightaways. Can you use it? Yes, but you're going to take a little bit more time in targeting the center of your design to get it just right. Because like I said, This is only 5 by 7, and we have no wiggle room. Here's why we have no wiggle room. Okay, on the grid, what is inside this grid is your sewing area. Okay, this is actually my design. It kind of goes around this way to include a corner. When it's straight on, everything, including these corners, are inside the grid. The minute you start to rotate it, say if you rotate it just 2 or 3 degrees because you haven't hooped it correctly, this corner right here is now outside the grid. And your machine is going to tell you to switch to a larger hoop, that it's not going to fit. The whole thing has to fit, including all the corners on any design, not just a quilting design. So that's why you want to hoop it close to center as you possibly can. Also, when I'm using this hoop, I want the bracket the bulk of the quilt to be outside this bracket because of the fact that you don't want all this inside of this quilt inside the bed of the machine. It's going to make it hard to maneuver. So for this, I am using regular quilting thread in both the needle and the bobbin, and I've done a test stitch to make sure that my tensions are good. So I just did a little sample, and yeah, I didn't care about any of these things. I just care about the tensions, and the tensions are good. I ended up using my silver bobbin case, which is the auxiliary bobbin case that I can actually feel free to turn the tension screw until that bottom tension is correct. Okay, so I'm going to place this underneath. I'm also using a size 14 top stitch needle. That's what I like to use for quilting, or size 14 quilting needle. I don't really like to use an embroidery needle because the eye is a little small, and I'm using a fairly thick thread, and it's a cotton, so it's more prone to shred. Okay, so I've got that sort of in the way. Let me loosen this hoop. Loosen it quite a bit. You do not need stabilizer, but I'm going to put this close to it as I can here, inside the center. Okay, I'm going to put the grid on the top so that I can read the letters ABC facing me. And now I have to stand up to do this. Okay, I can see the line. I don't know if you can, but I can see that line. And I'm going to can't quite see the line here. Okay, here it is this way. So I'm pushing the bottom into the top and just seating the hoop. Now it's perfectly straight. Okay, then I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to stitch this corner piece. So let's go to the machine. Okay, I have my design loaded into the machine. I've got my hoop on the machine as well. I am noticing that my openings are here and here. Okay, I'm looking at my design and it's showing that they're here and here. I need to rotate this. So I'm going to rotate it. There it is. This is slightly less than 5 by 7, and here is the start and here is the stop. So I've rotated it so it's going the same way. I'm going to move. Okay, and I've got it so I've centered in the hoop. I've used my needle beam or you could go needle down, needle up, in order to make sure that it is in the exact center. So this is ready to stitch out. It's well centered out. I could turn my camera on to make sure that it is well centered, but if your machine doesn't have a camera, that's fine. So I'm going to hit OK. I want to go plus or minus on my machine. I want to go to the very first stitch. So, okay, so I hit +1 and it's moved all the way to the right. Now see how this is not in line with the edge of the fabric, and that's okay. We're going to fix that on the next block, this block and this block. Reason is because I have a 5x7 hoop. If I go bigger in the design, I have to switch to a larger hoop, and I really don't want to do that. I want this to be able to be done by a 5x7 machine. So I'm going to, first of all, grab my thread. I have the quilting thread in both the needle and the bobbin. And I want to needle down and needle up. I'm going to pull this bobbin thread. I'm going to use the plus or minus to advance. About 2 more stitches. Mostly I don't want that knot forming on the back. And then lower my presser foot and off we go. I'm stitching at about 600 stitches per minute. I don't want to go much faster than that because this is a cotton thread. It is more prone to shred, and I also will more prone to uneven tensioning. So if I go at a moderate speed, I don't have to worry about the tensions. This only takes about a minute to stitch out, so let me continue stitching this. I'll speed it up. Okay, as soon as this slows down, I'm going to stop it. Okay, I'm going to stop it. Raise the presser foot, grab my thread, needle down, needle up, grab my bobbin thread, and then cut the excess off. And that block is done. This is where this is going to go. So I've marked this here, and remember this little mark, I'm going to mark it, my center point, and I need to mark that, and I'm going to remove this pin because we don't need it anymore. And I'm going to just take, for now, I'm going to take a line and make it bigger. Nice and even and straight across. Now this is overkill. I don't need all that. But I wanted to make this dark enough for you to see it. And I'm using a friction marker. And yes, I know, always test your friction marker. But this is a sample, so we're good. I'm going to use my regular hoop. And this grid is accurate. Place 2 corners in. Push the hoop into the bottom of the hoop into the top of the hoop, and just heel of my palm to set this quilt. Now this is ready to go into the machine. Okay, I've got the design loaded on my machine. I've loaded the quilt into the machine. The outer edge is facing this way. Now we need to make sure that design loaded in the same way. I want this design so that the arrow points to the outside of the quilt. And is this the same? Yep, it's the same, so it's oriented correctly. I want to go to the scissor here. I want to turn off the trims, turn off all the trims. And the reason is that I want to pull my bobbin thread up. Right, it's set exactly where I want it to go. It's right in the middle. I need to bring my bobbin thread up, but it's not going to start here. It's going to start up here. So I'm going to go to plus or minus on my machine and move 1 stitch up. Okay, now I'm going to lower my needle, or lower my presser foot, lower my needle, pull my bobbin thread up. And I want to grab that. There we go. Now I have both in my hand, and notice it is starting right exactly where I need it to go, and this is how it's going to advance. Go from 1 block to 1 block. Okay, let that go. It cannot. You can go ahead a couple of stitches. I'm going to listen for the stopping. I'm not going to cut these threads away yet. I'm getting ready to stop it. As soon as I hear it slow down, I'm going to stop. Okay, it ended right exactly where I need it to end. That's perfect. So I'm going to raise the needle up I'm going to raise the presser foot, pull my thread forward. Let's see, grab it, pull it forward. So I can just grab it, lower that presser foot, take one stitch, pull it up. Okay, and now I'm done. I'm going to take my needle thread, and I can actually take this out of the hoop now. Go forward, pull that bobbin thread up. I want to leave threads here because I want to bury the bobbin thread, so I'm going to pull the bobbin thread. The part that, here's the bobbin thread here, I tug on it, it doesn't move. I want to clip the part that moves, okay? And my needle thread. Okay, so now I've got nice long tails that I'm going to leave here. Okay, now we'll go on to the next one. Okay, and see, it stopped exactly where I needed it to stop, and it started exactly where I needed it to start. And that was just using the ordinary grid so that everything is just perfect here. Okay, so I'm going to leave these threads until at least I get two joined together. Why am I leaving these threads out like this? Just in case the next one is a gap, I can use these threads to just take a needle and sew over and join them, so you will have a completely invisible bond. Now I've got my magnetic hoop here, and this is the one put out by Baby Lock. It's for the 5x7 hoop, and it's for the Destiny Dream, and I think it's a few other models. So this is actually a very good one. If you're selecting a magnetic hoop, you want to make sure you've got one with good strong magnets. In fact, these magnets are sometimes a little too strong. So anyway, I've got my design up, and here is the first stitch right there. Right there's the first stitch, here's the last. So the easiest way to do this, you're going to take your plus or minus, which is right here. I want to take it to the first stitch, which a little green arrow says it's right there. Okay, now what I have done is, you can't really figure out where the center of this is because it doesn't have a grid like we do with the regular hoops. And here is the center of the hoop, but it's on the bottom, which is going to be sometimes a challenge. I am going to take my needle right here and put it right where it's supposed to start. Okay, and put the press foot down. Okay, remove any pins that are in the way, and I've got a few here. And I'm going to start with, these have small and large magnets, and they're pretty powerful magnets on the back. Okay, so I'm going to lift right here, and I have my line. I'm just going to put my finger here, smooth it out, and so I know I've got an anchor here, and right here is sort of where that goes, and gently put this magnet into place. Okay, I'm going to take two of the small magnets, still maintain, because I can still move this, and where's that? Sort of place this line. I'm going to gently swoop this over to the side. I don't want to shift it. I want it to stay. And I'm going to take this one, leaving this here. Come carefully with the other long magnet. The long magnets go on the top and the bottom, and I have noted from lots of practice, it's got an arrow here If you can see that arrow is completely useless. The center of my hoop actually aligns with the right edge of this little dent right there. So I'm going to take that little dent and make sure, there. Now this end, if you can see that, is right there over top of the line, the left edge. Right. And then I'll take the other two side magnets. The short magnets go on the side, and I want to gently put them till they clasp. Once they clasp, they stay pretty much in place. As far as lining it up horizontally, that's a little more tricky. These do kind of shift, so it's somewhere in here. I have a very tight 5x7 spot. I can't really play around here. So I'm using this as my start. It should end here. If you would like to double check this, I'm going to go back to 0. I'm going to use the scan capability and scan this in. Just to double check it. And let's see, it's really hard to see that because it's black on a dark color. Let me go back, return, change the color to white. There, now you can see it better. Okay, it's starting right where it's supposed to. It is ending exactly where it's supposed to, so I feel confident that we can go ahead and this will stitch exactly in place where we want it to go. So let's go over here and let's watch it stitch. I need to go to Embroidery +1. Actually, I go like 3. Down again, up. Pull up the bobbin thread, lower, and here we go. It started perfectly in the right spot. Stop it, raise the needle, raise the presser foot, pull your thread. Okay. Lower that needle, bring it up, and pull the bobbin thread up. I usually will pull all of it, and you've got more threads than you need. I'm going to leave about 4 inches because I'm going to end up burying this knot, and just clip it. I'm ready to go now on to the next one. So I'm going to go back to the number 1 stitch. Go to 0. Go to number 1. Okay. Now I can remove the magnets. I have tried keeping one magnet on and sliding it like they do in the ads. It doesn't move for me. These magnets are way too tight. Okay, now I'm ready to do this next one, so I'll push that out of the way for now. I'm going to lower this needle right where it needs to go exactly. Okay, and okay. I'm going to continue on doing the whole rest of this row. Now whenever, for this one I'm going around counterclockwise because I want to start the next one where the first one left off. So if it started down here and went up there, I would go around counterclockwise and do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and continue until I have a full corner. Okay, now we're going to do this straight away when it comes to an adjoining block. I'm going to use my magnetic hoop for this. Notice that it starts here and ends there. That's ready to go. I'm going to put my hoop into the machine, and for this it helps to have an ordinary straight pin. So I went ahead and put the hoop into the machine. I'm going to use plus or minus to advance to the first stitch. Okay, we're not actually going to stitch yet. I just need to orient something. I need to orient my line using the needle to help me. The needle. So here's my corner block. Okay. I'm going to insert that needle right next to where it came out before. Okay, I'm going to see the needle is right there. This one finished here. I'm going one stitch away. It is inside this corner block. Here's the center line for my hoop, and this one I have darkened it with a Sharpie marker. There's the center of the hoop. I can see there's also a line right there. And I'm going to place that pin straight down and hold on to it. Just smooth out the rest of this quilt while this is lined up here. And I'm going to gently put this long piece back here. I do recommend using the baby lock hoops for your machine. It's just going to work better. Now I'm going to take two of the short ones. These go on the sides, and again, keep checking so you don't keep shifting this. Shift this and gently put this in place. This end goes to the middle and gently. Okay, I'm going to take my other end piece, which is right here. And I noticed just from playing around with this, the outside of the line is right there, although it's going to line up where you want it. But just before I slip it in, I want to pull that pin out because it's in the way. Remove it from harm's way, and then put the other hoops. When you're picking a hoop, I like the baby lock ones because these are very, very strong magnets. They grip really nicely. They've got good markings on them. Some of the ones you buy have little magnets. Those are usually not strong enough in order to secure the quilt. I'm going to go to the last stitch. I know this is too short. Okay, I know it's not going to fit. You want to take a measurement between this line and this one. I'm adding right to the edge here, but I need to size this. So I'm going to hit OK. Go to return size. I want to make it bigger, but I do not want, this one is going to accommodate a change in the stitch count. I don't want to do that because I find when you do that, it's going to make the stitches too small. So I want the stitch, I'm only going to be changing it out, another 1/4 of an inch. Let me get a ruler here to see what that is. It's a little shy of 6 inches. So I'm going to leave the width the same, but I'm going to elongate this. It's now 5.51 inches. I'm going to go to 5.95. Let's see if that, 5.95 is the height. So I am going to hit OK. Here, I'm going to instead have it go to the top of the design, which is this topmost piece. So it is now measuring the top center, and that's showing me, okay, it needs to move down a little bit. So I'm going to hit move and move it down just a bit. And over just a little. There we go. And down more, and I'm going to now go to plus or minus, and I'm going to advance to the last design, which is about 699, just to check it. Okay, that's right on the money, or at least very close. If it isn't perfect, it's not a big deal because you've got your threads that you need to tie together, and you can use those threads to bridge any gap that you have there. So I'm going to once again go to plus or minus 1 stitch. Down, up, pull your bobbin thread up. Just hold them all out of the way, I'll sort them later. Okay, and then off we go. Let it stitch. And again, when it starts to stop, stop it. Okay, don't let it cut the threads. In fact, I turn my thread cutter off. Raise my needle, pull that forward, down, needle up. Pull that bobbin thread up. And I cut it about 4 inches away, and that's good to go. This corner is done. So I'm going to go ahead and do this last corner the same way with another straightaway, only this time I'll use the camera. Okay, I have this hooped, and I'm going to go ahead and use my camera in order to position things. So I'm going to scan in. Just let it do its thing. See how it's matching here? It's matching here. Even though it's extending a little bit into the other block, that's fine because I need to go in further than the edge of the block. Okay, so I'm going to return that to 100%. Go to embroidery, plus or minus to the 1. Okay, I'm now going to pick up my bobbin thread. Pull it up, hang on to it, and stitch. And it's slowing down soon. Let it finish. Or don't finish it. I've got close enough. Needle down, needle up, presser foot up, needle down, and I'm good. Pull that bobbin thread up, and I'm going to cut it about 4 inches. There we go. And now everything is finished. This quilt is done. It's ready for binding. But I need to bury these threads. There we go. Okay, I have to tie these together. If you look closely, we have a tiny gap. That's okay, because when I tie these together, I'm just going to take all 4 threads from the last one, and I'm going to tie it fairly loosely, but a nice square knot, nice and tight. And I'm going to cut these threads even. If you have those self-threading needles, that helps. I'm just going to use an ordinary embroidery needle or a tapestry needle that has elongated eye, just because it's easier to thread. I'm just going to thread all 4 threads through the needle. I'm going to put the point of the needle in between where they need to meet and just bury these threads underneath. Grab the tail and then pull, and you scratch it, and that knot will bury itself inside of the batting. And so now that's a completely invisible join, and you just clip your tails. Let's take a look at it from the back. See, I'll put my finger on it. It's right here. Now you have a tiny gap here, but you know, I'm not worried about that because that's on the back, but yet it's nice and flush. Unless you're looking at the back corner, but from the front you cannot tell where you started and stopped. Now, if that is a concern, that you have a gap here. It's not to me. Then you would take 2 of those threads, push them down underneath, and bury the knot from the other side so that you would have coverage on both sides. But it's not necessary, so I'm going to go ahead and all through here and then tie off all these threads. Okay, there you have it. It's all finished all the way around. I'm just going to take an iron to erase these marks. This is a friction that'll go away with the heat of an iron. Where I've used the chalk on the dark colors, in fact this one's pretty much gone, just take a toothbrush, an old dry toothbrush, and rub it away, and the white chalk or yellow chalk will just completely go away. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this project and saw how easy it is to do quilting on any machine using a 5x7 hoop. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at waltzquilt@yahoo.com. And also, if you would like a copy of the corner and the border design, send me an email. I'll be happy to share it with you. Join me next month where our quilting segment will be on binding this quilt perfectly the first time around. Have a good weekend and happy sewing. Bye.